We've just had 26 moves of absolute carnage. So it's day two of the Rapid Chess in St. Louis. This is round two, and it's Alireza Firouzja with white and Fabiano Caruana with black. So let's see what happened here. Alireza kicked off with e4. We had e5, knight f3, knight c6, bishop b5, and now Fabi goes for the rock solid Berlin defense with knight to f6. And here we had pawn d3. So Alireza doesn't want to go in for any of the endgame stuff where the queens come off the board. That's how you get to that by castling. So he just goes d3, supports e4. Now we had bishop c5, the tried and tested move. c3 from white, preparing d4 later. Castles from black. Castles, pawn d6. And now white has a choice to make here. The most common move is knight b to d2, and you see that classic kind of slow play, Roy Lopez maneuvering that white loves to do in these positions here. You can also go h3, but Alireza goes bishop to g5, one of the sharper ways to play here. Now, it's an aggressive move, of course, but actually it begs the question, who is attacking whom? Because h6 can be played, kicks the bishop, and then g5. Sometimes black starts with bishop to b6 first, then goes g5. Now, normally you don't want to be pushing the pawns in front of your king, but it is okay to do in this position because after the bishop drops back, knight h5 here, we can see that black's got a really good grip on these dark squares here, and this bishop is a bit entombed. So you have to be careful as white because strategically you could get a bit squashed on the king side there, even the bishop getting trapped or something if you don't strike in the center in a timely manner. So we now had knight b to d2. Queen f6 played. So again, this move keeps an eye on the d4 break, again bringing pieces onto the dark squares. This is the black strategy. And now Alireza must have just mixed up his lines here because I'm going to switch to a game, just going across a tab here. Fabiano Caruana has actually had this exact position, but with the white pieces here, playing against David Howell. This was in 2021, who many of you will know from the commentary he does on the Chessable Masters stuff and all those Meltwater games. Anyway, so Howell playing black. Here, Fabi took on c6. This is the way to play. You have to eliminate that knight. It's a key defender of these dark squares. And once recaptures happens, then you go d4. Now you could have a captures, and it looks like you're just losing a pawn, but here's the white trick. You kick on with e5, pick up a tempo on the queen. So we had queen g7 played. Now, if that one's captured here, I'll just turn on the engine, but I think it's knight e4. Yeah, this is the trick, and this is what we see in some of the other lines. You kick that queen back, and then you're taking here. Basically, white's doing well in this position. There's all this kind of tricky stuff going on, but you have to eliminate. And now if queen g7 we saw in the game, takes on d4 was played, bishop drops back, white's doing fine, got a good center. So you have to eliminate that knight on c6 basically before you go d4. I'll switch back to this game here. So queen f6 just played by Fabi, and now d4 immediately played by Alireza. Big mistake, because now you can take on g3. Fabi plays this move. Now the pawn recaptures, just to show you if Alireza chops here immediately, well, now the knight can recapture. It was never eliminated. And basically, this is just a good position for black. Good pawn structure here, bishop pair, no issues at all. You've got space, you've got a pawn to attack. Black's just better here, more than equalized. So we didn't have takes on e5. Captures here was played. Now we have takes on d4, and now you just don't have these e5 tricks. This is the problem. Your bishop's gone, the knight's still there. So Alireza takes here now, but Fabi's not obliged to recapture that bishop straight away. So he flicks in this move, takes on c3. This is the big problem for white now. You're just losing a pawn or even two, depending how you play it. So Alireza here, he takes on b7. Now, the top engine move here is actually taking on c3. Black recaptures, although in this whole line, e5 takes, now knight e4, queen e7. I mean, you're actually, I think, 2 pawns down here. I mean, like I said, this is the computer's preferred, but yeah, 2 pawns down, and black has the bishops. Horrible, really. So Alireza takes on b7 instead. The bishop recaptures. Now he takes on c3. Queen takes, rook b1 hits this bishop on b7, this one tucks back, and he goes a4, a kind of pseudo threat to go a5, but like said, he's just a pawn down here, and the bishops, and black's got the space. This is horrible. So rook a b8 was played, very simple move, covers this unprotected piece, and now Alireza's just like, okay, I got to go for it here because I'm just going to get squashed positionally. Top computer move is rook c1, the queen can drop back, knight c4, and yeah, you're just struggling. You're going to be under pressure the entire game. Players like Fabi, they're not going to let this slip. That bishop could tuck into c5 right now. Anyway, no good really. So we had rook b5 played instead. Now, this walks in directly to a skewer, but it's classic tricky Alireza. So bishop a6 was played by Fabi, good move. You're now skewering these rooks. So after the rook moves away, which is what Alireza played, Fabi picks up an exchange, knight recaptures, and now he goes rook f to e8, pressuring this pawn, hitting the half open file, logical stuff. And this is where Alireza, he just goes pure tricky Alireza mode. This is awesome. So he plays knight takes on g5, just a classic kind of hacker move. We all do this stuff in Blitz, don't we? So Alireza's just throwing it out here. Can't get my words out. Throwing it out here in a rapid game. I mean, he's only got 2 minutes on the clock versus 13. So Fabi's got time to think about this one. Now pawn recaptures, queen h5. This is his trick. He's attacking this pawn here, threatening to lead to a mating combination. And actually, it's not so simple to defend. I mean, how would you defend this one, for example? Say you try, for example, rook to e7 to cover that one. Well, now you can take here with check. You're hitting the king. This is one of the problems. You're taking here. You could have something like this. You're not actually getting mated, but not much fun. Black apparently is still a bit better. Sorry, one moment. I just opened the sidebar. Black's apparently still a bit better, but this is, way more in the game for white, of course. So covering with the rook is no good. If you go pawn to f6, again, no good. You give up the g6 square, all this stuff starts happening, no good. So what Fabi finds here is just an excellent response. Oh, and by the way, if queen g7, well, now you're running into rook g5, skewering these ones. This is really good for white. So we had a move here from Fabi, which just keeps black completely in the driving seat, and maybe you can find it. So the move played here was bishop takes on f2 with check. Brilliant stuff. Now, that one wasn't captured. Alireza moved the king. But say you drop back here, well, now you can go queen g7. There's no rook takes here, skewering queen to king. And if the rook comes back, well, now rook e5. And you defend via this x-ray from the fifth rank, you see. So we didn't have the rook actually taking, although Alireza could have done that immediately. He moved the king away, tried to keep it tricky, and now this is so classy from Fabi. So he drops back this queen here, and you're thinking, what is going on? Is he not just walking into a skewer? Now Alireza didn't play this one, but if he had, again, if you want to pause and look for the follow-up move, please do so here. So the follow-up move to play is rook to e6. Really nice stuff. You can actually give up the queen with a check, but after king recaptures, your king is just absolute curtains because this bishop is covering these retreat squares. So of course is the pawn entombing the king, and so you're just about to get killed on the h file here by one of the rooks. So you could check, rook blocks. There's no check from e5. The pawn covers, of course, so you're just dead in the water here. Something like this, completely game over. So you can't take on g5. Really nice calculation from Fabi. Instead, we had takes on f2 now from Alireza, but this is hopeless. Fabi's even got time to pick up a pawn. The rook comes back, rook e5, knight e3, and now queen h8, offering the trade, and you can't even avoid it because it's pinned to the king. Completely hopeless endgame. Here Alireza resigned. He's -9 basically when you run it with the engine, so absolutely not premature at all. So he just mixed up his opening lines this game, not ideal. And Fabi seems to be a little bit of a bogeyman for Alireza lately. He does tend to struggle against him in a number of games, different time formats. Whoops, just click the queen. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this game. Thanks very much for watching. If you never want to miss a future video, do consider subscribing to the channel and see another epic game between these two players. Click here. Thanks for watching and see you soon.